stage 7 of the Tour de France from Rennes to Futuroscope, covering 259.5 kilometres. That's 160 miles on top of yesterday's stage when they covered 169 miles. 2 long days in the saddle, and as ever, when you get these sort of stages, you get an opportunity for the lesser riders to go away. And here we see two, Chiesa and Debian, who are trying to catch up with Polly. They're something around about 6 minutes down on him now as we get in towards the closing stages of this race. What an amazing day we've had here. I'll just put you in the picture before we talk about some of the things you had left over from yesterday. Polly broke away today after 60 kilometres had been covered. We'll see him shortly, but I can tell you he's really plying on towards the finish. And these two chaps set off in hot pursuit around about the 80 kilometre mark. But by then, Polly had got a lead of 9 minutes 15 seconds on Debian and Chiesa, and the peloton were back at 9 minutes and 25. He'd done that in just 20 kilometres. Imagine that, from 60 kilometres to 20 kilometres. He had suddenly accelerated, and the rest of the bunch were sitting up. Although the wind was with them, it was quite favourable, the weather conditions are ideal for racing, and they're travelling at a great rate of knots. They still couldn't hold this Italian who went away, and these two set off in pursuit, and it's been virtually fruitless since then. They've been chipping away at his lead, and they're now just round about the 6 minutes, and we wait for official confirmation between them and Polly. And we're well inside the last 60 kilometres to go now, so there's a fair chance that Polly can hang on, but you never know with the big bunch. Once they come along and start to accelerate, then anything can happen. And this course, normally coming into Futuroscope, has been a fairly flat finish, but today we've got a short, sharp little climb on the way in. This gap then, Stephen, at the moment, 6 minutes or so for Polly, waiting for confirmation on that one with less than 60 kilometres to go. And these lads then here chasing after him, and the peloton still something around about 10 or 12 minutes back. Are we going to see another unusual happening in the Tour today? Stephen Roche here with me, Tour de France winner, stage winner here in Futuroscope. What do you think about it?
Well, of course, at the moment it's the gap is so big that even if the bunch start really riding hard, it'll be very difficult to get it back. But as you see here now, the gap is down to 5:34 between Polly and the chasing group, and 7:32, which means there's still 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes nearly before the peloton comes along. 7 minutes 30 seconds is not a hell of a lot in 60-odd kilometres. So, but it depends on how motivated the group, the bunch is. And for example, Musillo now has the yellow jersey from Sean Yates, because he got the sprint, he got a bonification in the sprint earlier on. He was on equal time with Sean Yates, but because Musillo's prologue time was better than Sean Yates' time, the points then go to Musillo, which puts him in the yellow jersey for the moment. So as we can see, this is the reason why the GB team now are riding on the front. But it depends, like the three riders that are in front at the moment are no danger to the yellow jersey. So Musillo's team might just prefer to kind of keep a tempo going and hope he finishes 2 or 3 minutes in front, but they're not going to try and chase him down at any cost. At the same time, they're probably hoping that the sprinters teams are coming along. As Zaporov wants to try and win the stage, like knowing that this is a stage for him. It's been very reasonably flat all day, except for this last climb with 20 kilometres to go. Then it's a straight run into the finish with a slight little uphill finish then here in Futuroscope. But I'm sure that they've still have a slight chance Polly still has a slight chance of winning, because 7 minutes 30 seconds is still, it's a long way to go. It's a lot if the group are decided just to ride along, keeping their distance.
Well, Polly started the day 10 minutes and 6 seconds down on Sean Yates. There's confirmation of the second sprint of the day. Polly ahead of Debian and Chiesa following on behind them. So that was the order at the second sprint of the day at the 198 kilometre point. The yellow jersey technically on the shoulders of Polly when he had that 15-minute lead over the main pack, and as Stephen just explaining too, equal time as far as Mazzeo and Sean Yates is concerned. And yesterday really, after Yates came in, we did see the two extremes of riders in motion. Just half an hour after elated Sean Yates had taken his first ever leader's jersey in the Tour de France, 3 times winner Greg LeMond arrived in the broom wagon, his gaunt face showing his dejection and disappointment at having to abandon the race. And Greg LeMond it was who took those unusual triathlon handlebars and put them on his bicycle for the first time in 1989 and won a time trial at Futuroscope. So some tradition there, some history in the past, and now he's out of the race. A shame then to see Greg go like that. He really looked awful when he came in the sag wagon yesterday. But Sean Yates, his face absolutely wreathed in smiles. And since that success yesterday, I don't know if you found it, Stephen, I've been going around and all the journalists want to come up and shake your hands, and they're saying tremendous things. 100% for the Britons. We've got 2 in the race, and we've got 2 yellow jerseys. The atmosphere has been great in the camp, hasn't it?
Definitely. Like what one thing that a lot of journalists are saying, it's a pity that England wasn't now, because going into England, Boardman had a jersey and he lost it the day before we got a few hours before we got on the boat, and now we are back in France now, just a couple of hours, and Sean Yates is the jersey, another Britain rider. So it would have been much better if one of them had a jersey in England. But I'm sure Sean doesn't mind once he had it. Like, it's yellow jersey is a dream come true for Sean Yates. So I'm sure he doesn't mind whether it be Futuroscope, whether it be Rennes, whether it be Paris, London, Hong Kong. I'm sure Sean's only worry is keeping it now for the next day or two, or getting it back now that he's lost it.
Well, this team on the front now, GBMG, this will help Sean Yates. He can sit on the wheels here because they recognise they've got to pull those 2 back in front, then just settle the gap down as far as Polly's concerned. Polly, yes, still might get the stage success. We'll hope to go up there and look at him shortly. There you see there, Miguel Indurain, they put up the time on general classification, lying 6th at the moment. He lost a little bit of ground yesterday, but he won't be too bothered about that because we've got some big mountains to come. And at the moment, they're only seconds separating the top riders, and we're going to see it change into minutes as soon as we start getting up into the Pyrenees. There's Sean Yates in the centre of the bunch. Look at him there in the yellow. Amazing, absolutely amazing. We just couldn't imagine this year's tour, when we're going into Britain for a couple of days, that we would have had 2 Brits in the yellow jersey, and that's an absolute marvellous occasion for everybody. And the Tour de France entourage as well was so pleased with the 2 days in Great Britain. I'm sure it won't be long before we get the race back on British shores. The long string showing the speed is up. The GBMG team started to chase hard after 112 kilometres had been covered. And the race then today covering completely 259 kilometres. So they've got really to do about 100 odd kilometres of hard graft to get that man back by the time they get to the finish. That's a long time in the front as they're going along here through the vineyards, and the sprint in Brissac, which Polly got. As we went through there, the advanced convoy of press people, we were stopped and handed a bottle of special wine, that the Anjou wine, which has been produced locally, and on the bottle they put a yellow jersey, and either side of the yellow jersey, riding his bike, was the vines in green, and a special presentation bottle was to the Tour de France from the wine growers in the Anjou region of Brissac. Well, Polly got the special sprint there, and the yellow jersey sat in the middle of this bunch. Sean Yates, well, he's got to try and do something like yesterday, I suppose, to get away, because yesterday I asked him about it, and he said the GB team just didn't seem to know what they were doing. When he talked to Anderson later on, he said back in the pack, and we saw it, how they just lost control suddenly.
What happened yesterday was that, if you remember, the GB team rode very hard after Thierry Murray, who was away with 20 kilometres to go, and then when they caught the group of Thierry Murray, then they thought, well, this is okay now, our day is over, now the sprint is going to take over. So that was just unfortunately then, fortunately for Sean, his group then got away, while the GB team were kind of letting themselves filter back into the group, hoping that the sprinters team was coming along. And fortunately for Sean, the sprinters never came along, and again the GB team got organised, and they already had 1 minute and 10-20 seconds, so which of course played to Sean's advantage. So it was great to see him holding off then yesterday, even though he only got it by 1 second. If he had gotten it maybe by 10 seconds, he might have held it for another day, which would have been even greater. But like I'm sure Sean, he said, well, having a jersey for 1 day is the best present anybody could have made him.
Well, I asked him, you know, how he came to get the jersey, because he said, I was just doing my job. It's an interesting attitude that he went out there, Frankie Andrew went across, and Sean is such a kind sort of man, isn't he? He didn't look for that glory in himself. He said, I was just doing my job. And also he said, he admitted he didn't even know, as we didn't on the commentary, that Bortolami was such a threat either, because it hadn't worked out that Bortolami, by getting the 20 seconds, was then only 1 second behind him. He said, you're dashing around, you don't think of this. He said, I suddenly found myself with a chance for jersey, didn't think of Bortolami at all, and then of course he was only 1 second.
Well, that explains the reason why yesterday, if you remember on our screens, when we saw him in the last 2 kilometres looking at each other and not going in the front, it made me very upset, because I could see the jersey going away from Sean, not thinking of course of Bortolami, but thinking of Nuzio and Van Zeller. But I was very, very frustrated to see them just sitting there and not really giving it everything. And Sean was banging on the screen then saying, "Get it out there, Sean." And he got it out and put his nose down to the front stem and got to the finish and held the jersey for 1 second from Bartolami. But unfortunately, the gap between Musio and himself was only 4 seconds. So, as we know, there are 3 sprints each day with 6-second bonus for each winner of each stage, so each sprint. So, unfortunately, it wasn't enough for Sean.
Hand up then from Chiesa. Seems to be asking for some advice on what the gap is, I suppose.
Actually, what he's doing is put the bottle up.
Oh, is that what he did?
That means he wants a bottle.
I wonder what he's up to.
When he put the bottle up, he'd be calling for the car to get a bottle. So we'll probably see him go back and get a bottle soon.
Let's talk about these 2 riders here, and just to remind people that they're around about 5:34 down on the leader. The bunch is coming up very close, only about 2 minutes back behind them. Davian, a young rider on the front, but Chiesa just in there, and the little gap. Chiesa, one of your chaps, he's always been known for go for long breaks, hasn't he?
Well, he's not always known to go for long breaks, but he's always in the long breaks. Yeah. He very rarely makes a break himself, but he's normally in a break.
Well, he's having a good go today, but they're a bit worried about the big group coming up. Polly is still in the lead. These 2 riders are out on their own, wedged between them and the peloton. We're going to take a short break. GBMG on the front, and the ONSE team beginning to move a little bit up toward the front. Just 31 kilometres left of this race. They've got the climb ahead of them now, because the climb of Lencloitre is, sorry, that's a sprint. The climb is up at Côte de Marigny-Brisay, and that's just a 4th category climb. They only climb some 70 metres at about 200 feet, and it's a very short, sharp, winding one, and then they plunge down the other side on the flashed road into Futuroscope, and then they'll be heading in with just some 20 kilometres to go to the finish. So it's very close towards the back end of the race, but I don't think it's quite enough for them to be split. We should wait and see, because things like that have happened before, and cycle racing is always full of the imponderables. You never know next what's going to happen. We've seen it so often in this race. And there we are, 3rd sprint of the day coming up then at Lencloitre, and don't forget the bonuses then, 6, 4 and 2, and what's the pushing and shoving coming? That's Sean Yates in the yellow jersey, trying to come through and get some bonus seconds. And looking back, the rider from Motorola's waiting for him to come up, but he hasn't quite made it yet. It looks like Vanzella and Museo are going to try and get some sprint second bonus here. Museo's coming off the wheel. Museo then going for the final 6 seconds bonus. It'll put him in the lead. He's still going hard, and one of the Italians from the Workers' Union, I think Martinelli, is trying to catch up with him at the moment, but still it's Museo trying to get it. He's got it. Museo's got himself 6 seconds bonus on the line then, just ahead, I think, of Martinelli. So that gives him now a 6-second lead. Sean Yates in yellow just went through, yes.
Sean, actually, I think we had a problem there, because him giving out to the guy from the MG. Possibly what happened there, the MG rider boxed Sean in, because Sean was coming through on Phil Anderson's wheel, and the MG breed rider didn't see who it was, but he actually boxed Sean in, and Sean was telling him off. So we can't see it now on the cameras, but I'm sure there's some
few words being
said. Maybe better off not heard on the screen, I'm sure.
Well, that sprint then was at 29 kilometres to go towards the end of the race, and the attacks coming. Motorola are firing off men. We're looking back down. We won't see the incident with Sean yet. It's too far back then, as the powerful Belgian sprinter Johan Museo pounds his way to line, and those 6 vital seconds of bonus, which will put him in the yellow jersey if the pack comes together, and neither he nor Yates nor Vanzella nor Bortolami get the bonuses on the line, because there's 20 seconds for the first man over the line again today, 12 seconds for the second place man, and 8 seconds for third. There's still a lot at stake.
There's definitely a lot at stake, but at this stage, like if Sean must get the jersey back, he must win the stage, and not Armstrong?
No, it's the German chap.
Sean must win the stage and get a 20-second bonus, and Musio must only finish 3rd, so it's quite difficult to believe it could happen, but you never know anything can happen yet. Sean might get away in another group like he did yesterday, but highly unlikely, because now it's going to be very much marked. Also, he has the yellow jersey on his back, so it's like a sore thumb sticking out there in the yellow jersey.
And the hopeful riders still trying to prize their way off, because everybody wants to win a stage in the Tour de France. It's something that when you retire and you can just look at the photographs and the faded pictures of your successes in years gone by, but your name goes down in the books because it's the greatest bike race in the world, the Tour de France, and to win a stage in this race is just about every rider's ambition, but so few make it. And now a little group there. Yes, was Martinello in second spot, Vanzella third. Got it right, Museau, Martinello and Vanzella. Well,
we see for the third time in a row 3 different groups going away, and each time we have a GAN rider in there. This time was Christophe Capelle. First was Eddie Senior, another time was Thierry Gauviot. So maybe with the abandon yesterday of Greg LeMond, maybe the team feel much freer now, because they were hoping that Greg would come around for the mountains or try and do something in the general classification overall, where the team now have said, okay, well, our general classification now is gone, so we must get our name on the screen and just go for on the flat stages or anywhere we can.
Because they keep jumping around like this again, boys, as well, it gives the field some worry about, like Boardman, because Boardman is also, he's settling in so well, he's got the power, and this sort of finish here might well suit him. So I suppose if they keep going down the road like that, they're not quite sure which GAN rider it is jumping away. You can see some of them, some you know very well, Steve, but a long string like this, I mean, is it easy to misjudge somebody?
David, when you're top rider, you know another rider from the way he moves, from his back, from the shape of his back, from the hair on his head, when the guy goes by, you don't look at his number. You have no computer to consult to see which rider it is. You know who's going away. So Boardman has to big in the yellow jersey, like everyone knows who Boardman is, and nobody's going to let Boardman go away and say, sorry, didn't catch his number. But if Boardman goes away, he go away on his own power. There's no slipping away anymore for Boardman, because the lads know who he is now.
Well, he did it the hard way going into Brighton when he got his 4th place, so he's going to be marked down. The yellow jersey of Sean Yates, the best he can hope for is to get away and take some seconds out of Museau before we come into the finish. But the speed still very, very high indeed. It's a hard man's game today, this tough race, and this is where the older riders can use their experience. And I think, as you're rightly saying, that with Greg LeMond out now, the GAN team, some of the rest having a bit of freedom, and looks like the yellow jersey coming through yet again. There's so many yellow or yellowish jerseys in this race this year. There's more than normal. Normally the Tour de France don't want any yellowish jersey in at all. But if, for instance, the Onse rider Stevens here in the pink jersey, Onse normally ride in yellow jerseys, but they just can't do that in the Tour. So they changed over to pink. And the flowing blonde locks of Neil Stevens runs straight through and goes into front. The Australian in the lead at the moment for the Onse team. Stevens, another rider that likes to chance his arm, and now with their star sprinter out of the action, Laurent Jalabert, who we saw him on television, I did last night on the news. He's up onto his feet, but he's very shaky, and his face, he's looked so swollen since that phenomenal crash at Armentières, and he's certainly going to be out of action probably the rest of this year. And they interviewed him, and the poor chap looks like he's lost all his front seat.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. If you remember the crash he had last week in Armentières, it's amazing he's even came out with a face on him, because he hit the ground some smack at 75 kilometers an hour. So he had a crash helmet, okay, but it wasn't a crash helmet he needed. It was more of a face guard he needed. But as we come now to the finish, we're only 24 kilometers to go. But I was looking at the screen a few minutes ago, and the average speed so far today is 42 kilometers an hour. So you can imagine the stage they had yesterday, the stage they had the day before yesterday in England in the Portsmouth, the stage in the Brighton. Every day we haven't gone below 40 kilometers an hour for a stage. Normally this kind of a stage, 250 kilometer stage, is normally run around 40, 39, 40, 41 kilometers an hour, whereas this year is exceptionally fast on these long stages, simply because every day we have a break right on, early on the race, whereas today, once again, over 42 kilometers an hour for the first 4 hours of the race. It's exceptional, and I know that we can see here on the screen the GB riders riding full train in, and that's the average speed. It's definitely not going to go any less. So.
And Caleb Bowman's having a go now for GBMG, winding it up at the front to try and keep this little lot together. They've certainly done a tremendous job today, GBMG, and it's helped Telecom. They've gone back into the group for just a little while now, so now the field is all together. Those are the two teams with a lot to gain from this one. Actually, the Pulte team, the yellow with the green stripes all over them, they don't seem to be getting so well coordinated when it comes running in. You either get the Telecom riders in the pink and the white colours here, or you get the GBMG with those blue shorts and the blue and white jerseys. There's the red dots on them. That's the GB supermarket group that sponsor the ride. Big the red dots on it, and the other little mark you can see there is MG, the Italian part of the operation. So their colours being constantly in the front. They've been chasing hard ever since the 112-kilometre mark. That's what the work they were doing. We're now inside 24 kilometres to go, and so that's 235 kilometres covered in all. And GBMG have been doing therefore most of the work for the last 120 kilometres.
They have, but they're a team that are well used to doing this kind of work. But going back to the other day, the faulty team rode their eyeballs out for Abdul Japarov in the final, and Abdul only got fourth or so, whereas I reckon that they take him to the front too early. Today maybe they're holding it back a little bit, and maybe only going to show in the last 5-6 kilometres, because the Telecom team the other day did the very same thing. They held back right through for the last 4 or 5 kilometres, and then they wound it up at the end. So Polsky probably leaving it all up to the Telecom riders, now the GB riders keeping the speed up. In the final 4 or 5 kilometres, they will come along and definitely try to accelerate. He's never won a Tour of Italy, so we all felt that he finished the first three so many times that if he had really concentrated on one of those major tours, maybe he would have won one of them.
And on the climb, the final climb, in fact the only climb of the day, this one up the Côte d'Alumini Brise. This is Jesper Skibby, who's riding away from the main group. This Danish rider for the TVM team who won a stage into Evero last year in the Tour de France. That was an amazing comeback last year. He'd crashed in the early part of the season, he'd fractured his skull, he'd been off his bike for an awful long time, and then he started training gently and went behind a moped which his father was driving to get his speed up. He got fit for the Tour last year, he came in the Tour de France last year, and he won the uphill finish. He broke away with about 2 kilometres to go to win the stage there. He's gone over the top then of this climb and got the lead, and he's certainly caused the field to sprint a little bit now. But Jesper Skibby loves that sort of gentle uphill climb, but it hasn't done too much damage to the field. You can see looking back there that they are very much closing down that gap that he opened up, so it could still be yet a sprint finish down into Futuroscope. He's up into Futuroscope. They're going down now, then up the other side. But the flattish roads will have this packed back together. I'm pretty certain of that one, because there's nothing really too tricky on the running except a few roundabouts here and there. So we may yet see the big men having another go. Way until about 5 or 6 kilometres down the road. So the poor lad had done around about 180 kilometres or so on his own up in the lead before he got swallowed up by the pack. And here they go again. Looks like Van Bon having a go. He's always having a go towards the back end of the race.
Ekimov.
Oh, it's Ekimov. They look the same, those two. Yeah.
But with Ekimov with his long hair and his style, he's one reason why I always recognise Ekimov is very flat on the bike. He's got a very boardman style position on the bike, so you can always recognise Ekimov from a long way off.
This man broke 11 records as an amateur, one of the Russian amateurs that were dominating the amateur scene until he was able to turn professional. As many of the riders, once the Iron Curtain came down, they switched. And this was another man that Peter Post picked up from the Russian squad and put him in, and I've seen him win stages in the Tour de France before. He won the Grand Prix. So this sort of style he likes, going away towards the end, but a bit further than he normally goes. So the word perfect rider, Ladislav Yakimov, on the front at the moment. And while he's flying away, let me still put you in the picture then about the race today. Fontenelle did not start this morning. He's the chap who had the chain wheel go into his face in the crash at Armentières. He didn't start this morning. Franz Marson and Casatelli, they both climbed off their bikes at the feeding station and abandoned the race. That was after 138 kilometres had been covered. Didier Roux also abandoned later on down the road, because he was something like about 5 or 6 minutes down on the field, and yesterday he came in, they credited him actually with a deficit of 29 minutes, but in reality he was 6 minutes outside the time limit, Didier Roux, but he's had so many crashes and the lad was really suffering, and when he came into Rennes yesterday he couldn't find his way to finish. They put him back into the race this morning, but it didn't do any good at all. Didier Roux abandoned today, so we've lost 3 riders, Marson, Casatelli and Roux, who's retired. Fontenelle did not start this morning. Sprinter Jean-Paul Van Poppel would like a lead out, I think, rather than a big toe job like this. But we'll have to wait to see if Van Poppel can also be in there when it comes to the finish, which is not far to go now. Field together, and the man in the background yet again with his big bicycle there for us all to see as he gets himself on on screen. I understand, in fact, also that looking at the cornfields here, that when the stage went up across Wiltshire, they actually cut some circles in the shape of a bicycle. We have all these problems up in Wiltshire on the corn when they have these corn circles. Well, somebody actually went and did one on a bicycle. I didn't actually see it myself, but I was told about that. And the field is split again. That's sheer speed.
Sean Yates is there. The group is split, but Sean is there. So unfortunately, there's too many in the group then for it to last. The MG riders are going to be towing it down straight away.
Well, Yates has got that ability to wind up. He's looking back over his shoulder now. Sean Yates, who... Oh, there was a crash. I said we haven't had one, and we have. And they've gone down, and that looks rather bad for the rider on the floor at the moment. And
Defoe, Lawrence, no, sorry. Roberto Sierra, the Spanish rider from the Once team. He'll be okay though, because this mainly is more a fright than anything else. The hardest part is when you fall, you feel very, very painful, but when you want him to start moving then, the blood gets going and you're away like no one's business then.
On the left there, that was the doctor's car that had pulled over, the one with the soft top, so he can look out and see what's going on. And another rider that had a problem. One of his back wheels.
Bunyo, is it?
Yes, it is.
There's Bunyo.
Well, Gianni Bunyo, he's got a chase to get back now. Gianni Bunyo looks like he's having a disappointing Tour of France at the moment. He's 2 minutes 4 seconds down. We've never seen him really riding for himself. He's been riding for the team. It's been unusual, hasn't it?
It has, but I think his motivation has gone. He's had a lot of problems in the last 12 months, and I don't think his mind is actually on what he's doing at the moment. He's changing teams, having problems with his director sportif and what have you. And he's already confirmed, even at this early stage in the season, that he's changing teams next year.
Sprint of the day, 6 seconds bonus on the third sprint of the day. He's now technically race leader on the road, leading Sean Yates by the 6 seconds that he got in that final sprint of the day. That's the man from GBMG.
Ekimov again.
And the Word Perfect rider, Ekimov, having yet another go.
And the lads are looking at each other, sort of stalling a bit. This could be good for Ekimov with only 4 kilometers to go. We saw a minute ago also the GBS Balan team starting to ride in the front. They will be now having more confidence now in Nicola Minella, who won the stage the other day. So they'll be helping the Telecom or the Pulsar team to try and get a sprint finish.
It shows you how far back he is on general classification, Ekimov. He's not going to be too concerned at the moment about his overall position. He wants to get the stage victory for Word Perfect. In fact, Ekimov won the Tour du Pont this year, but Word Perfect haven't had a tremendous season. They've been picking up the odd victory here and there, and their star sprinter, Moncassin, who they were going to shepherd into the finishes on the flatter stages, unfortunately tripped and did his ankle in on the day before the race started, and that's why Van Bon had to be flown down in to start in the race. So we had high drama in this race even before it actually started. So Ekimov now, the freedom to attack, is going on this long ride in toward the finish. A helicopter, you can see the shadow down there, picking up this string of riders, and they really are travelling at such a rate of knots now. It's going to be very difficult to get up from further than 20th back.
The finish now is going to be one long line as we start there. The lads are going very, very fast. So if you're not up in the first 30, first 40 places now, then there's no way you're going to get up to it. But also, it's also very dangerous here as well, because we have a lot of roundabouts and crosswinds. So, but I'm sure we will find in Duran, Rominger, and all the boys hoping to be in there with oh, look at the gap now, Dave.
That looks significant as far as Ekimov is concerned. Nobody seems to be able to chase him down, and so Ekimov still out in the lead. Tremendously powerful rider, this man. He did a ride like this to win the championship in Zurich. I've seen him do the same sort of thing to win stages in the Tour de France in the past. So Ekimov heading in toward the finish, looking for stage victory today. The field thundering after Ekimov, who's rounded that sharp right-hand corner, and he must have probably something like about a 15-second lead. We'll have to check that one if we get a chance to look back at the main pack. And Ekimov looking over his shoulders. This is absolute brinkmanship as far as he's concerned. The main group on these twists and turns aren't going to spot him.
But we must remember also that Ekimov is an old World Pursuit champion, amateur, and also world hour record holder. So he's using this kind of an effort. But he hasn't produced it in the last couple of years. But if he produces it even today, if it helps him on the stage today, it'll be an incredible boost for the World Perfect team.
So Ekimov then on the front and opening up a suitable gap, which may still be to the advantage, but we've seen it before. When suddenly the big sprinters start to wind it up and come up that finishing straight, then problems can happen for one lone rider on his own. He's actually, from my memory, turned back into the wind because they've gone around a sort of U-shape now, which makes it much more difficult, and he's got this long drag into finish. Well, you know it well because you won a time trial stage here, Stephen, way back in 1987.
I did, yeah, but we come to the final kilometre now. There's another, it starts going down a small bit and it goes up again, so I find it hard to believe that he can hold the bunch that are going so fast. I find it hard to believe, think he can hold them off now.
But look at the style of Vladislav Ekimov, the Russian rider for the World Perfect team. Looking back now, he's a bit concerned about this one, and the crowd though can see the bunch, and we can see the bunch, and he looks like he might well be swallowed up coming in towards the finishing straight. And on the front, GBMG are shepherding their man across line. Ludwig
Simon is giving lead out.
Yeah, he's just behind. Ludwig is in second spot behind Simon, and they're now swept up Ekimov, who tried so hard to win the stage. It's a charge of light brigade. The blue and white colours of Ado just going on the far side. He's not going to get it though.
Abdu is too far back again.
Yes, he's missed it yet again. One of the Poultry riders has done the lead-out point, but he's not there at the moment. Left-hand side, it's Abdu Jabrov. As Abdu Jabrov on the right-hand side starts to go for it. Abdu Jabrov forces his way through, but on the line, Ludwig tried. I think he went to Serrada. We'll just check if it was Serrada went across the line, but it was, in fact, yes, Sven Serrada who got it from Ludwig. Abdu Jabrov was probably in third spot, and in there for Gavis Balan, I think we saw yet again Minali probably take about fourth place. We should get a slow motion action replay about that one, but well, we have to say to Ekimov, he tried, but that is what bike racing is all about. They come surging up to you, and here we go, looking down again. On the far side is the Telecom rider Ludwig. In the centre is Serrada in the pink and the blue, throwing his bike at it. Abdu Jabrov comes late. Minali gets squashed in there into fourth spot. In fact, I think Abdu Jabrov might have got second from Ludwig. So Serrada, Abdu Jabrov for Olaf Ludwig, and Minali for Gavis into fourth spot. He left it awfully late, didn't he, Abdu Jabrov here?
The problem with Abdu Jabrov is he always rides a huge gear. Look at the gear he has here. He has a 53-12 on here. The problem with Abdu is he doesn't know when to use a 13 or a 12. He puts in a 12 and just leaves it there. But in a finish like today's finish at Futuroscope, where it's kind of a long, very wide open road with a bit of wind, it's very deceiving as it goes uphill. You just cannot keep a big gear going so fast for any more than 200 metres.
Well, he got second place again. He was second yesterday. He has had one stage victory to his credits at Amantia, but Abdu Jabrov will certainly have scored enough points to keep the green jersey in this hurly-burly of the sprint. And Serrada coming through here just found the right amount of effort. In fact, that chap Serrada is really beginning to become a star sprinter. I watched him in the Tour of Italy beginning to improve his sprinting, and here he is throwing his bike at the line in Futuroscope to take the stage from Rennes to Futuroscope, just ahead of Abdu Jabrov and Ludwig. A fine view of this amazing futuristic park, and when I first came here for the tour way back in '86, when we first had the tour, there was only about one building complete. That's the one with what looks like a white golf ball up on the top on a piece of cheese on the right hand side of the screen. Now we use that as a press office, and around about everywhere there were bulldozers going, diggers digging, scaffolding going up, concrete everywhere, and now an amazing place this is, Futuroscope. When you were here that time, did you have a chance to look around by any chance, Stephen?
No, when I was here, they kind of put the road in the middle of a field, and for the finish of the Tour de France. This is this very road here today, but there was nothing else around here. There was no hotels, there was no buildings, nothing at all. Just one road going up a hill, where you can see today the difference. Like we can see there's new hotels, Hotel Ibis, there's all these centres, different functions around us. There's lakes, there's everything here now. So in what, 6 years now, they've made an incredible progress.
Yeah, it's all developed very short. In fact, the hotels too, I was looking at when I came in today, have also been done in a futuristic style. Here they have these big performances on the water, the sound and light and music out on the water there. It's the most amazing part of the world. You go into these buildings and you can experience unusual feelings in there. They've got lights and looking into the future. They can go into all sorts of new modern technology, and it's just an amazing park, and it's just built out in no man's land. There's nothing here when I say first go, except just that one building we use as the press office, and a couple of other things are well on the way towards completion.
Well, there's another fantastic stage again today, Dave. We're looking back over the last, every day, today's the 8th stage of the Tour de France, but every day so far has been, something else happened. There's an action every day. The riders are really putting everything they have into the Tour de France this year, as they do it in every year. But this year, I feel that the riders are riding a little faster on average speed on the stages. So it'll be very interesting to see now what the stage is going to be like tomorrow. Will they ride hard? Will they ride as they're riding over the last few days, or will they just try and prepare themselves for the individual time trial on Monday?
And we must not forget then that whilst the yellow jersey will go onto the shoulders of Johan Museeuw by 6 seconds over Sean Yates. Sean Yates still has a chance to get that jersey back before we get to the time trial, and people like Indurain will be licking their lips with anticipation of the chance of taking over that yellow jersey. So one more day yet to come for Yates perhaps to go back into yellow. It's been changing all the time, this jersey. We had Bourbon take it in the product time trial. He then kept it for a couple of days, and then Van Zelle took it off him. Fine ride into Brighton. Then it got taken by Museeuw, and sorry, the other way around. Now we've got this chap Museeuw taking it over from Yates. So it's been changing all the time, but a good stage victory then for Sferrada at the Futuroscope. And tomorrow then we're going to be off again on the flatter parts. The stage then going from Poitiers to Trelisac, and that's going to be another long one, 218 kilometres in the saddle. These are amazing little boats, by the way, that you're going to keep pedalling around. They're pedal type things with great big fat wheels, and the kids get on them and off they go. Well, here we are. We've got our victor coming up onto the rostrum now. Jan Sferrada of the Lampre team. Some compensation then for Lampre, because their normal team leader Fondrier is still recovering from an operation to his slip disc. Jan Sferrada, 3 stage victories in the Tour of Italy this year, adds the stage victory in the Tour de France. That's 4 major stage victories in 2 of the major events. He also won a stage in the Tour of Romandy and a stage in the Ruta del Sol. Sferrada showing great form in his 1994 season. That's given him now no less than 6 stage victories this year.
I saw him a few weeks ago riding in the Libre, where he actually won a stage as well. He was riding very good.
There, 5 hours and 56 minutes, 50 seconds the time it took for them to cover the total distance of 259.5 kilometres. That's 160 miles of racing. What a fantastic day it's been as the King of the Mountains goes up to collect his jersey. Peter de Klerk did not feature in the only climb of the day, but he had sufficient points for him to keep that polka dot jersey that he's managed to get by going for all the short, sharp hills we've had so far. We've only been going up the 3rd and 4th category climbs. The points awarded there only go to either the top 3 or top 4 riders. The situation could well change when we get into Pyrenees, where the enormous first category climbs really whittle down the field, and this man will be out to defend his jersey, but we're looking for the likes of Machia, the mountain climber, Pantani, Indurain, Rominger to be up there when it goes to the very tough climbs up in the big mountains yet to come. So Abdul Jafarov should be coming along as well to get his green jersey, and there he is on his way through now. He's collecting a hatful of points. There's no doubt about this man's going to take some dislodging for that green jersey. Great disappointment, I think, that Nellison of the Nomel team crashed out in the stage into Armentières and Jalabert as well, because both of those two would have been contesting the green jersey. Jalabert is doing everything at the moment to keep it on his shoulders, but he's not quite getting his act together. 2 second places and 1 so far, and he's only got really tomorrow to go for yet another stage victory before we start to move into the really tough terrain where he'll be anxious to finish, let alone get up to the sprint at the end of the day. PMU sponsoring the sprint section of the race. Abdul Jafarov for Pulte with the garland and the bouquet. There is Abdul Jafarov, today's still in the green jersey. No look at the sprint as...
if you watch his Warder, the gear he's riding, he's pedaling a little faster than Abdul Jafarov. He's constantly using a 13, where I was saying again earlier on that Abdul Jafarov always uses 12 in his sprints, and I'm sure today he misjudged the sprint again today on this uphill finish, was using the 12 instead of a 13. as Swart is a much more supple rider than himself, he had more, actually, once he was going, the gear carried him over the line and was able to beat out Japarov.
Is it a bit difficult, though, Stephen, to advise a sprinter on what to do? They seem to be a race apart. Of the rest of you who ride the mountains, do the time trials, there seems to be a way in which you can talk about the how you should and shouldn't ride. The sprinters seem to be a breed of their own.
Well, a sprinter, first of all, is normally very headstrong. You can't tell him anything. That's why a sprinter is never afraid in bunch sprints and everything else. But without the Japarov, he's the kind of rider. He uses the 12. He's an incredible pair of size on him, and he uses those size to get the big gear round. But I'm sure if he used it in smaller gears on some occasions, he possibly would win more races like this one here.
And he has won the Brittany Ferries Trophy. We've had 4 stages where the Brittany Ferries were giving special prize of 15,000 French francs for each of the victors on the days. They're also using the point score system like we do in the Tour de France to see who come out victor of the 4 stages, which would come towards the overall sprint section for the Brittany Ferries competition. And you've just seen Abdul Japarov collect his prize for that one, and so that's one more trophy to add to his already burdening sideboard, I should think. He's always been collecting trophies a long time, ever since he was a very good amateur rider when he was winning victories in things like the English Milk Race. And now up there collecting the yellow jersey, Joao Mazeo. That's slender 6 seconds separating him from Britain's Sean Yates, the Motorola rider, not being able to contest the sprints. And now tomorrow, will he get the jersey back? Well, Mazeo had it once before, he then lost it to his teammate. And now Lucas and another collection of the lines. We might see it come up at the moment. I had a look at their team bus the other day, Stephen, and they've got, this will be the 4th line. They got these nice little toy lions, and they actually got them sitting across the front of the windscreen, right by the driver, like they're going for a ride in this coach. But there, in the yellow jersey, Mazeo, who's very tactically minded, rode perfectly today to collect 4 seconds bonus on the first sprint of the day, 6-second bonus on the last sprint of the day, to take the lead and to take the yellow jersey of Britain's Sean Yates just by 6 seconds. Joao Mazeo, the new leader in this, the 1994 Tour de France.
There's still the individual time trial to come into the time. Sean could also do a good ride again, but I don't know if he could beat in Rennes though in the time trial. But anyway, there's also Chris Boardman for the time trial on Monday. He's also, I expect him also to do a very good time.
Well, we will wait with bated breath. The individual time trial comes to us in just a couple of days' time. You can see how close the gap is. In fact, looking down this morning, right down to 50th place, the gap was down 2 minutes and 44 seconds. In fact, there's a minute only covering the top for 17 rides this morning, with Chris Boardman for Britain in 17th spot, 59 seconds down. He'll have lost another 6 seconds now or so, Chris, but nevertheless he'll still be in 17th place. So for the Britons, absolutely amazing performance. We've had 2 yellow jerseys in this race so far, but Sean Yates, having lost it today to Mazeo, Borsalami then back in 3rd spot. Well, my co-commentator Stephen Roche has been with me all day. It's been a fascinating day. We hope you'll come back for more action from the Tour de France on Sunday when we go from Poitiers to Trélissac. So for us here at Futuroscope, time to say bye-bye.